Hey Atlanta, say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right, we're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/smallbusiness or visit an Apple store to learn more.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would love to have you. And I gotta tell you now, and I'm really just genuinely excited to be able to launch this with you guys today. If you text the word Army to 33777, I'm going to send you back a link. If you click the link and put in your name, address, and email, you'll suddenly see up at the top a thing that says My Officials. And when you click it, you're going to be able to have one-stop shop. Who are my two senators? Who's my congressman? Who are my state legislators? Who's my governor? Who are my local county and city officials. And it is a great way. If you click on each one, you'll be able to get their bio, their party, their office phone number, their social media contacts, all that sort of stuff. I invite you to do it as a service of the show. It is, every one of you nationwide has this opportunity. So all you have to do is text the word Army to 33777, and we'll turn you into an activist. Now, I gotta move on. I want to talk about a story, and I've talked about it once as it appeared in the Atlantic, and now National Review has done more. Ian Tuttle and National Review has done more on the November cover story at the Atlantic, the elite college students who can't read books. Let me just give you the synopsis here. Now, many students no longer arrive at college, even at highly selective elite colleges, prepared to read books, Rose Horowitz reports. She means whole books, cover to cover. It's not that they don't want to do the reading, it's that they don't know how. Expectations that were once routine, that students could competently and sympathetically read and discuss whole volumes from Pride and Prejudice to Crime and Punishment, are now unsustainable. Many students no longer command the powers of concentration or possess the linguistic skills to engage the standard texts. Professors, yielding to the situation, are shrinking and cutting assignments. Horowitz notes correctly, the problem begins long before college. In 1976, about 40% of high school seniors said they had read at least 6 books for fun in the previous year, compared with 11.5% who hadn't read any. By 2022, those percentages had flipped. Reading for pleasure is even seen as a niche interest. I'm sorry for those of you in Rio Linda, it's niche interest. The hemorrhoids are offended. Reading for pleasure is even seen as a niche interest. A couple of professors told me their students see reading books as akin to listening to vinyl records, something that a small subculture may still enjoy, but that's mostly a relic of an earlier time. No single cause is behind such a trend, but it is not hard to see that nearly every aspect of our educational culture discourages patient, attentive reading. High schools and middle schools have spent years phasing out books, often in response to the imposition of standardized testing. As one teacher tells Horowitz, there's no testing skill that can be related to, can you sit down and read Tolstoy? This trend is abetted by the widely adopted college and career-ready educational program that has left many students prepared for neither. Among students headed to elite colleges, there are additional pressures, ferocious competition for acceptance to prestigious institutions, driven by a sense that long-term success is impossible without an Ivy League degree, promotes GPA obsession. For the same reason, students are subjected, often beginning in elementary school, to a punishing regime of extracurricular activities in the attempt to compose a resume that can survive the gimlet eye of the nation's last true gatekeepers, admissions counselors, and then there are the phones. What does not come up and what should come up is Common Core. Common Core has been terrible. Common Core has been an absolute disaster for our public schools and private schools. Private schools are adopting Common Core as well. I got a friend of mine who's enrolled his kids in a school, and turns out they're doing Common Core math, and neither he nor his wife can help the kids. Our kids had a similar situation. We wound up moving them to a different school. And you know what's the most infuriating thing about it is that a lot of these schools that use Common Core, they just lie. They flat out lie to you. They tell you it's not Common Core, it's the Singapore system. You know, those kids in Singapore are smart. Or it's not Common Core, it's Community Core. That's the ticket. It's not Common Core, it's Jeffersonian Applied Mathematics. Whatever the hell that is. And they just lie, and it's Common Core. And there are teachers who will defend it. There are math teachers who will defend it. And you know what they're actually defending is they're defending their ability to take your children and educate them in ways that you can no longer educate them. And so your children can be convinced teacher's smart, mom and dad are dumb. I've explained a lot on this program the problems with Common Core math. And my God, the teachers who love it have embraced it, and it is a cult. It is an absolute cult. They will defend it till they're blue in the mouth, and what they cannot defend and what they dance around and try to avoid answering for is that you, the parent, are incapable of helping your child with their math homework. It has separated you from the ability to help your child, which is actually a critical life skill and a developmental building skill for family trust. And they've cut you out of the process, and they do not give a damn about you. They do not give a damn that you are no longer allowed to help your child with math. All they care about is they found a newfangled way that makes them the smartest person in the room. But let's talk about the reading stuff, because I talk about the math a lot. Common Core reading embraces short synopses and articles and relevant news stories. So instead of, for example, reading Pride and Prejudice, you may read an article from Time magazine, and I bet you know the political orientation of the literature being read. You may read an encyclopedia entry. If you read a work of fiction, you're going to read a short story. You're not going to read a lengthy story. The reason is because what Common Core does is it prioritizes the ability to do quick analysis of material. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Give it to me now. What Common Core devalues is plot and narrative and character development. Why? Because plot and narrative and character development are not critical skills in the workforce. And Common Core elevated teaching your children to be good little automatons ahead of actually being creative, thoughtful people with an entrepreneurial American spirit. So we can't sit down and read Moby Dick because Moby Dick is too long and the second word of the title is inappropriate. And we would have to ask questions about who is Ishmael and why does he start the book Call Me Ishmael, and why does the captain obsess with the whale, and what are the themes and what are the allusions, what are the allegories, what are we learning on a moral basis? What about the character development? No. We got to read an article from Time magazine about global warming from 10 years ago, and what do we learn, and who are the protagonists, and where does it stand now, and give me a quick analysis. And then there's the accelerated reader program where your kids are encouraged to read as many books as possible, and they're recommended to read books on their age level, and here's why. let's say you have a child who actually is an accelerated reader. You have a third grader who's reading on a sixth grade level. Your child is going to actually be penalized if your child reads the sixth grade level books, because you can't read as many of them because they're thicker books. So your kid is forced to read as many of the grade level books as possible. They certainly get more points for reading the advanced material, but it takes longer to read. And so at their grade level, they're penalized because they can't read as many books. So what Common Core is encouraging your children to do is to be dumbed down to grade level instead of being advanced, because despite their claims that you get awarded extra points with the accelerated reader program for reading bigger books, you actually get penalized because you're not reading as many books. It's been a disaster for education. Your children are not encouraged to sit and meditate on a book. They're encouraged to rush through it as quickly as possible. Side note, tangent, I guess you will. So going to seminary, and I'm looking at starting back my classes next semester. I learned to read books by reading the book, digesting it. What I learned in grad school, starting with law school, is you got to be able, some of these books that you're reading for grad school, you got to be able to read them very quickly. You can't sit there and like meditate on each page. You just got to go. Read the first sentence or two of every paragraph. Read the last sentence of the paragraph. It's a well-run book. You'll get the gist. Move. And it just burned me out on reading for pleasure. But one of the critical skills for middle and high school is to get a kid to read a book cover to cover. And along the way, they learn, what is this book about? And when they start to talk about what the book is about, they start to learn what a plot is. When they start to learn characters, they begin to learn character development. And when they learn character development, they learn who a protagonist is. What is a protagonist? Who is the protagonist of this book? Who is the antagonist? How do they relate in the plot? Those aren't testable skills, but they're actually necessary life skills. Because what you learn in reading the classics is, one, how very few new ideas there are, and two, you understand how narratives develop, and three, once you've understood how narratives develop, you understand the flow of the news better. You're less likely to be spoon-fed information, and then you're less likely to come to these crazy conclusions that you hear on TV and just accept them as true, or from a political party like hurricanes being steered to a particular place on the planet. By reading books, you become a deeper thinker, and by becoming a deeper thinker, you become less gullible. And the whole purpose of Common Core has been for your children to become good little worker bees for the Fortune 500, to question nothing, to take the spoon-fed information and provide good worker bee analysis of the current situation for the employer, and never come up with the idea that could compete against the employer and put the employer out of business as an entrepreneur. That's what Common Core has done. And there are private schools and public schools in this country to this day who have embraced Common Core. They've decided to get rid of old math for new math. They've decided to get rid of actually reading books cover to cover for the synopses and the articles. And it is going to be a long-term disaster for your kids, because your kids are not going to be able to be thoughtful entrepreneurs. They're going to be automatons working always for someone else. Your child will never even have the opportunity to be their own boss, let alone someone else's boss, in a Common Core system, because the entirety of the system is designed to suck creativity and entrepreneurship out of your child and just make them worker bees. And I don't care for those of you trying to call and defend Common Core, because we're seeing it play out in real-world applications now. Like, for example, kids who've gone through the schools that use Common Core are now going to college, and they're no longer able to read or write. They're no longer able to stand up and think off the top of their head. They're no longer able to do public speaking skills. Then, by the way, as an aside, this is a great opportunity to recommend classical education schools, where they teach old school grammar like diagramming sentences, and they teach old school math like your child has to memorize 3 times 3 equals 9. than old school application, and it is head and shoulders. Those kids get into college, and they're the ones running circles around everyone else. I know this firsthand. I'm seeing it with my daughter, who went from a Common Core school to a classical education school, and she struggled at first. And then she made it through, and now she's in college surrounded by kids who went to Common Core schools, and she's doing a great books program where she's able to actually hold a thought, read a book, and understand what characters are, what character development is, and what a plot point is. And so many kids who went to these Common Core schools flat out cannot do it. The problem is Common Core, and we should not forget it has corrupted our kids and broken their brains and separated parents from their kids and the ability to do homework. It's a disaster.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry. Everybody's talking about it. Billions of dollars invested, so buckle up. The problem is AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Oracle.com/Erickson. Go check them out today. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Delighted to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, happy to have you with me. We continue to watch the approach of Hurricane Milton. I need to talk to you about Jack Phillips. I mentioned this yesterday. It was breaking news at the time. The Colorado Supreme Court has thrown out the case against Jack Phillips. And I actually want you to understand the background here if you're new to this, if you don't know who Jack Phillips is. Jack is a baker in Aurora, Colorado. Where the Venezuelan gang is. Yeah, Jack is a baker out there. Within Jack's, a mile radius of Jack's bakery are 13 other bakeries. Jack is more of a cake artist than just a baker. He is known for these elaborate creations. Jack is a practicing devout Christian. Jack Phillips does not bake Halloween-themed cakes because Jack Phillips thinks Halloween is a pagan holiday, and he won't celebrate it. If Jack Phillips knows that you are getting remarried after divorce, don't go to him for your wedding cake because he believes marriage is between a man and a woman and divorce is a sin, and he's not going to make you cake. But Jack Phillips also won't make a cake for a gay wedding because he thinks marriage is between a man and a woman, and he was sued, and the Colorado Civil Rights Commission called him a Nazi, literally called him a Nazi for this. And the Supreme Court decided to take his case. On the day the Supreme Court decided to take his case, a transgender lawyer showed up at Jack's bake shop and demanded a cake that was pink on the outside, or pink on the inside, pink cake layers with blue icing for a gender transition, and wanted the cake to celebrate transgenderism. Jack said no, and the transgender lawyer sued. The Supreme Court sided with Jack in the gay marriage case. The transgender case made its way to the Colorado Supreme Court, and yesterday they threw it out. Ongoing persecution, all because the guy is a baker who practices his faith through his job. In America, this happened. Thankfully, he won. Now, Americans for Prosperity would love to have you on their side. Americans for Prosperity are great activists, and they love to teach you how to be a great activist, and they'd love to get you engaged, whether you want to knock on doors or to your neighbors and explain common sense conservative solutions and advocate for candidates who do that, or whether you just want to go to your local school board and say, hey, I'm a parent, I care about school choice, here's why it's a good idea. Americans for Prosperity, not only will they train you and make you comfortable with the public speaking, but they'll give you all the facts and data to win the argument. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Sign up with Americans for Prosperity. Engage with them. They, my friends, will teach you how to be effective at advocacy for common sense conservative solutions, from securing the border to school choice to deregulation for families, so much more. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Sign up with AFP today.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items, from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
Greetings, conversationalists. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Glad to have you guys with me. Genuinely, just I appreciate you trusting me to cover the news with you. And I want to talk to you about, well, Kamala Harris and history. So I'll give you my theory of the race right now, and I completely admit I could be completely wrong. And I'm okay being wrong. I just want you, though, to know how I see the lay of the land here. How I see the lay of the land is that if Kamala Harris is tied with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump, 100% of Americans have an opinion on him, and 53 to 56% dislike him, and Kamala Harris is tied with him, then Donald Trump is going to win the race. He tends to outperform his polling. It's a tied race that gives him an advantage. The contraindication of this is that Kamala Harris has a much better ground game than Donald Trump. And the majority of the people, you do need to understand this concept. We know the people who voted in 2016 and 2020. How do we know? Well, you get checked off on a list when you show up to vote. And if you take the lists of people who voted in 2016 and 2020, those are the people most likely to vote in 2024. When you survey those people, guess what? It turns out that a majority of those people dislike Donald Trump, an overwhelming majority of them. Like, Kamala Harris beats Donald Trump by 6 to 8 points among people who voted in both 2016 and 2020. Among people who voted in just 2020, Kamala Harris actually beats Donald Trump by 10 points. Those are the people most likely to vote. And because those are the people most likely to vote and they dislike Trump, that's the theory of the case for Kamala Harris. But it's a good theory, and I understand the theory. Donald Trump is going for low propensity voters, people who are less likely to vote, but it's still possible for them to vote. And what stands out in my mind is that among all the people who say they're going to vote, not just the people who are most likely to vote, but people who say they're going to go vote in November, it's a tied race. And if you're with a person who's as polarizing as Donald Trump, you're tied with him, that's a terrible, terrible position for you to be in. I think that gives Donald Trump the race. And again, this can still change. Maybe they will do one more debate. I don't know. Kamala Harris is going to do many more interviews than Donald Trump now. He's actually laying low. And honestly, who can blame him? The more Kamala Harris speaks, the better it is for Trump. I got to set a historic standard for you, though. This is before my time, but I'm a student of history and of politics, and I remember this. To set the stage, I need to go to last night. Kamala Harris went on Stephen Colbert's show last night. And Stephen Colbert asked Kamala Harris what should have been an easy question. This is the question and her answer.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the president's administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of...
Yes.
But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity, and in that way grow the strength of our nation. So, for example, my economic policies, I think of it, and I've named it as creating an opportunity economy. So it's about things like investing in small businesses. I love our small businesses.
And it went on from there. Now, I need you to know something about good political strategists. And I am a very good radio show host. That's not arrogance of me, and I know it sounds arrogant. I know what my ratings are. My flagship station, WSB in Atlanta, is Atlanta. I think is the 7th largest radio market. My flagship station right now for news talk station to be number one among people 25-54, and yet it is. And I am the number one radio show in the Atlanta market, not among talk shows, among music and talk. I know I'm a good radio show host. I was a really good political strategist. I was very successful running campaigns. Now, some of you will say, well, Erickson, why aren't you doing that still? Because I didn't like the off seasons trying to figure out how to be a lobbyist and make money that way for my family. And I found that it kind of, the people who are very wealthy at campaign strategy do a lot of things I just couldn't ethically bring myself to want to do. And I was working through my law firm, so I was bound by legal ethics as well, and ultimately transitioned out into the media and red state and the like. But boy, I loved it. I know how to run campaigns. And I'll tell you, one of the things you do when you run campaigns is you get your candidate in a room and you ask them, why are you running for president? And you pare that down to a very simple statement. I'm running for president of the United States because the alternative is a man who Vladimir Putin thinks he can control, who's proven himself to be a threat to America. And I'm running for president of the United States because not only do I want to stop that, I want to change the direction of this country from where we are. And we had a hard ship to steer differently because of Donald Trump's policies. And I want you to put me upon put me upon the ship of state's wheel and steer us through the storm away from Donald Trump and away from the past into the future. That's why I'm running for president of the United States. I'm running for president of the United States because I think we need to be focused on the future, and my opponent wants to relitigate the past. And I believe the future of America is better than where we are today, which is far better than we were when Donald Trump was president. We were so divided as a nation, and everyday people woke up afraid he was going to tweet World War III. I want an America where the government gets out of your way and you can live your best life now. Whatever it is, I don't care. You come up with that. Kamala Harris was asked on a stage on live television last night, well, it was pre-recorded with Stephen Colbert, why are you running? What's going to be different? And she hemmed and hawed and couldn't answer the question. Do you know why you have to answer the question? This is historic fact, and if you're in politics, it's political malpractice not to know this. The reason candidates have to give the answer, why are you running for president, is because of Teddy Kennedy. Edward Kennedy, the youngest of the three Kennedy brothers, decided to challenge Jimmy Carter in 1980 for the Democratic presidential nomination. And he went on CBS News. He was not yet announced as a candidate, but everyone knew he was going to be a candidate. And in the run-up to his announcement, he sat for an interview with CBS News, and they asked him the question, why do you want to be president of the United States? I'm going to play you this exchange with Kamala Harris one more time, and then I'm going to play the Ted Kennedy exchange. And the Ted Kennedy exchange is the lesson on why you must have a better answer. Here's Harris again.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of... But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change.
Yeah, I am repeating the question, so you hear
are
it.
a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
What would the major changes be, and what would stay the same? That was the question, and it was essentially, why are you running for president? And Ted Kennedy is the textbook example of why you have to have a sharp answer. This question came on the eve of him announcing his presidential run, and it destroyed his ability to run for president. Listen to this.
Why do you want to be president?
Well, were I to make the announcement and to run, the reasons that I would run is because I have a great belief in this country that there's more natural resources than any nation of the world. There's the greatest educated population in the world, the greatest technology of any country in the world, the greatest capacity for innovation in the world, and the greatest political system in the world. And yet I see at the current time that most of the industrial nations of the world are exceeding us in terms of productivity, are doing better than us in terms of meeting the problems of inflation, that they're dealing with their problems of energy and their problems of unemployment. And it just seems to me that this nation can cope and deal with its problems in a way that it has in the past. We're facing complex issues and problems in this nation at this time, but we have faced similar challenges at other times. And the energies and the resourcefulness of this nation, I think, should be focused on these problems in a way that brings a sense of restoration in this country by its people in dealing with the problems that we face, primarily the issues on the economy, the problems of inflation, and the problems of energy. And I would basically feel that it's imperative for this country to either move forward, that it can't stand still, or otherwise it moves backward.
What would you do different from Carter?
Well, in which particular areas?
Well, just take the question of leadership.
Well, it's you have to come to grips with the different issues.
That ended Ted Kennedy's campaign before it began. and you can say it's the partisan in me, but his stammering and stuttering and drawn out convoluted word salad of an answer reminds me of Kamala Harris. And that's a terrible thing for Kamala Harris. I believe I can be objective when it comes to these things, even as I recognize my partisanship. But when I hear her stammering, stuttering, jumping to a platitude, it's very Ted Kennedy-esque. And that destroyed Ted Kennedy's ability to be president. And I think that's why Kamala Harris is not going to win the presidency this time. There's still time for her to turn around in a tied race. Every day counts. But right now, she's not doing what she needs to do. That's just the reality. Now, I got to tell you about Vision Computers because you need to do what you need to do for your business. If you've got a business and you need computers, Vision can build you computers for your home or your office. And by the way, those of you out in Kalispell, Montana or Sacramento, California, you can take advantage of Vision. They work in every state in the country. They'll build you computers, and then where they really stand out as well, in addition to great computers, is their tech support. So let's say you're a small business in Sacramento, California. Cost of doing business in Sacramento is crazy right now. And you need tech support. You can't find an IT guy, and you can't pay Silicon Valley wages because the state of California is bleeding you dry. For $179 a year, if you call Vision Computers at 404-COMPUTER, go to visioncomputers.com, they'll be your tech support solution. So each one of your employees, for $179 per computer, each employee gets a phone number. They can call that phone number. They will not be put on hold. They will get someone on the phone immediately. They'll say, hey, there's something happening with my computer. Can you help me out? Can you remote in and fix it? What about my email? What about my printer? I lost a file. I can't find it. I know it's there. What am I doing? Vision Computer can give you the answers. So you're not paying the in-house IT guy. You're paying Vision $179 a year. If you call them and tell them Eric Erickson sent you, you're going to save even more money. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. 404-COMPUTE. They work any company, any individual nationwide. They'll build you a great computer. And by the way, you get their tech support for free. If you buy your computers for Vision, that tech support comes for free. Otherwise, it's $179 a year. It's affordable. It's great. It keeps you online. You get your answers faster than Google search. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would love to have you. Let's see. I want to go actually do it. Yeah, I've got time for Tracy's phone call. Tracy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Eric, I saw in your newsletter that the Colorado Supreme Court rejected the latest lawsuit against cake baker Jack Phillips on procedural grounds. Why does it take multiple appeals or procedures before a ruling highlights a procedural error? Shouldn't there be a checklist or a process to catch these errors in the initial filing to save the money? I myself was on a jury, and 10 years later, there was an appeal ruling that said this should have never, ever gone to trial to begin with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what happens is if the district court judge is a partisan hack, you can go through these series of appeals up to the Supreme Court. And in this particular situation, it took the Supreme Court of Colorado to say that this case never should have been filed. And I'll be real honest with you, what's actually going on here is not that they found real procedural grounds for the district court that should have dismissed it. They now have new Supreme Court precedent that did not exist from the last year. There's the 303 creative case. And that was actually not law when the district court first heard the case. So the result is that the Colorado Supreme Court is now saying this case should have never come to trial, but it's in light of this new case that wasn't around back when the district court heard the case. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is there any recourse for Jack Phillips being put through the ringer on things like this? I can't imagine the extent that he was handling it on his own.
Yeah, I wish there was, but there's really no recourse for him. Thankfully, he had Alliance Defending Freedom helping him, so he didn't have to pay for the legal fees, but it hurt his business. They're trying to put him out of business, and that's the problem here. Is it's lawfare. And what I want you guys to take from this, too, is that Alliance Defending Freedom is a great group vilified by the left. If you got some charitable dollars to throw their way, it's worth it. They've been helping Jack Smith pro bono. He hadn't had to pay a penny, and they've spent a lot of time and money helping him.